If you've ever wondered how to fix a hole in a bag where the fabric is fraying, this video is for you. I am going to walk you through how to patch up a hole in a bag using a super simple homemade patch that I just put together from a scrap of fabric. So in order to do this project, you are going to want a patch that is larger than the tear in your bag or whatever you're repairing. And the reason I'm using a patch for this project is that if you look carefully, a lot of the fabric, the material is fraying. So if I were to just turn this thing around and then re-sew the seam, chances are the seam is going to pop out again because the material is really frayed in that area. And this isn't a huge bag, so there's not a ton of extra fabric to work with. So instead, I am going to sew this very simple patch over the opening. And the way that I made this patch was just with a scrap of fabric. I folded over the edges towards the back and ironed them, and then I sewed them in place with a very simple seam so that the raw edges are to the back of the fabric and they will be in between the patch and the bag. So the next thing to do is to pin the patch over the opening. So I'm going to get my pins out and I'm going to start at the top here and just pin this onto the material. This little bag holds my camping pillow, which I have right here. It's a great little pillow. And the bag is really helpful. It's like a little stuff sack for a pillow. So the bag helps keep the pillow to a smaller size for when I'm camping or backpacking, which we try to do a backpacking trip as a family once a year. And I love a pillow. So that is not a luxury I'm willing to give up when I go backpacking. I know some people just use a sweatshirt or something as their pillow, but I like to have a proper pillow. And my pillow needs a proper stuff sack. So I'm almost done pinning this onto the little bag. And one more should be good. Okay, so it's pinned on, and if you're sewing a bag or something smaller, you want to make sure that you're not accidentally pinning the bag closed. So you're not pinning it together when you apply your patch. Now the next step is to get this onto the machine. So let me move my camera so you can see a little better. All right, I am at my machine. I'm gonna take the larger part off my machine so that I just have this more narrow piece to work with. Now, if you are patching a bag, a stuff sack that's a lot larger, you probably don't need to remove the other part, the other cabinet part. But if you are working with a tiny bag, it might help you at least to do some of it. So I can kind of slide the stuff sack on, and now I am just going to sew it in place right along my patch's seam line. So I'm going to kind of follow that. And I'm probably going to have to do some fancy maneuvering when I get to these sides here, because I can't really turn the whole bag on its side. But what you can do is keep the needle down, lift the presser foot, and then pivot, take the bag off of the arm thing here. Hopefully that's not too hard to do. And then pivot. And now I've got a lot of the bag pulled over to the side. And I'm going to keep sewing. And I'm going to keep pulling the fabric out of the way as I sew. so that I'm only sewing the patch onto one part of the bag and I'm not accidentally sewing the bag closed. So over here, for example, I'm actually going to kind of turn the bag wrong side out so that I can just sew this one area of the bag. I know it's kind of hard for you to see, but this is sort of something you have to feel with your hands. Okay, so I've made it down one long side. Now I'm turning the stuff sack and I am going to do the other short side of the patch here. And again, I want to make sure I'm only sewing the area of the stuff sack that is in need of repair and not accidentally sewing it in the wrong spot here. Okay, so now I've got one more side. So again, I'm turning my stuff sack. It's kind of still turned kind of wrong way in certain areas. And I'm going to keep going. Take those pins out as I go. All right, I'm almost back to my starting point, which I know, again, not super easy for you to see. But the way I like to finish my seam is to actually go back over my starting point. So I'm turning, pivoting to where I began sewing, and I'm just going to go over my original seams with a few stitches and then a little back stitch. And then it is finished. Okay, let me show you how it looks. Here is the patch sewn on to the side of the stuff sack where the seam was. And I do want to take a minute and trim any loose threads. And this is a good time to take a minute and make sure that you didn't sew your bag closed, which I've definitely done things like that in the past. It's easy to fix, so you can just sort of peek inside and make sure that the inside looks good. Shockingly, it does. So now we can test our work. Take my cute little camping pillow and roll it up. And then let's see how it works with the new patch. Success! My little camping pillow fits nicely in there, and the patch is in place. This is ready for our next family backpacking trip. And if you have other things that you are trying to repair, I am linking to my playlist of other repair projects right here, so check it out.